What I'm going to talk to you about today has seriously kept me up at night. And this is what I want to know. Why did Austin experience this huge price crash and Dallas didn't? All right, these are sister cities we're talking about. So one crashes hard and the other doesn't? Like, what do we think, we're immune here? So I decided to dig in, do some comparing, and I'm telling you right now, I did not like what I found. Well, hello, I'm Wendy Pennell, and the question I have struggled with for a while now is why Austin and not Dallas? Austin home prices crashed hard when rates started going up, and they haven't rebounded. So I wanted an answer for Dallas. Like, we all want to blithely proclaim Dallas as this hub of opportunity, but the thing is, Austin is too. Like, all of the things we use to justify why Dallas home prices haven't crashed, Austin has those things. So I just decided I'm not going to stick my head in the sand on this. I need to know if Dallas is on the brink of falling right into Austin's footsteps. Because here's the thing, if we are, it dictates both caution and opportunity, right? I mean, you don't want to overpay. We don't want you to be upside down. And we also want to be ready and able to capitalize on opportunity when it presents itself. I mean, according to Redfin, between May of 2022 and November of 2023, home prices are down 21.6% in Austin. So we're talking Austin has made national headlines with its price drops. According to Newsweek, prices in Austin are dropping 10 times faster than the national average. And in fact, also according to Newsweek, the Texas city saw the biggest decline in the entire country. So why are we so confident that that's not going to happen in Dallas? According to Realtor.com, they predict the drop isn't going to stop there either. In fact, they project that price growth in 2024 will fall by another 12.2%. So that would be in addition to the 20% drop it's already seen. So Austin and Dallas, there's just not that much difference economically between these two cities. Like, both of the cities are huge job hubs and both cities have strong economies. I mean, we know Austin's tech scene is booming, and we know Dallas is a hub for corporate headquarters along with all of the jobs that brings. Both cities are teeming with tons of growth and demand for the area. And of course, both are predicted to be like massive metropolises in the future as well. In fact, Austin Culture Map shares how a new report has found the state capital will take the gold as the fastest growing large metro area in the country by 2028. So Austin got first place and Dallas actually got fifth place in the same study. So both cities are seriously expanding and fast. So do you see why this is like, keeping me up at night? There just aren't that many huge differences between the two cities, for one to have like this huge housing crash and the other one to not. What housing issues does Austin have that Dallas doesn't? First of all, let's talk about new construction. We all know new construction is blowing up all over Dallas to the tune of like hundreds of homes just sitting vacant. Well, guess what? Austin was the same way. They just became overbuilt sooner. In their article, here are the cities where housing inventory has increased the most. Forbes reports that Austin had the 17th highest increase in inventory in the nation. Okay, we're talking up 54.5%. I mean, this is a major increase in a short period of time, and the general response is that demand in the Austin area hasn't been able to keep up with the ever-increasing supply. In fact, the demand wasn't even close to keeping up. Listen to these numbers from Community Impact. They report that in Austin, there were almost 20,000 more multifamily units delivered than absorbed. So we have a timing issue. Austin found themselves going into the interest rate hikes with way too much inventory. So when affordability plummeted due to rates going up, so did their demand. So what are we seeing happen in Dallas? Well, Dallas is also becoming overbuilt with new construction. I mean, timing wise, it wasn't already there when the interest hikes hit, but it's headed there now. Culture Map wrote an article titled Dallas-Fort Worth Booms as #2 U.S. metro for new home construction in 2023. In the article, they cite a study by chamberofcommerce.org that puts Dallas as #2 among the top 5 cities with the most new home construction. Check out these numbers from the study. 5,156 average monthly new home permits in 2023 and 12,738 new single-family homes. Now, if you believe what you've been told about Dallas having a housing supply shortage, those are great numbers. All right, but let's talk about that. Okay, you need to know when the pundits say we have a housing supply shortage, they're going off reports generated by the MLS. And guess what? New construction builders don't put all of their listings on the MLS. So in my middle of the night ponderings, I decided I wanted to get a better idea of the actual data, okay? Because my mantra is always, people lie, numbers don't. So this is what I did. I compared the MLS, newhomesource.com, and then the actual builders' websites, okay? So for example, I looked up Lennar Homes, and I saw that while they only had 106 homes for sale on the MLS, there were 218 on newhomesource.com and 256 inventory homes on their website. All right, that's a whopping 150 homes more than what's on the MLS. Now, I went ahead and looked up the same information for a few other builders as well. American Legend Homes, they had 78 homes on the MLS, 90 on New Home Source, and 124 on their actual website. So that's 46 more homes on their website than on the MLS. David Weekly was the same way. They had 118 listings on the MLS, 127 on New Home Source, and 131 on their actual site. So we're talking about a difference of 13. Then we have Highland Homes. Okay, you ready for this? They had 185 on the MLS, 286 on New Home Source, and a whopping 374 on their own website. So we're talking 189 more listed homes on their website than the MLS. Then finally, we have Shattuck Homes with 38 on the MLS, 69 on New Home Source, and 84 on their website. So Shattuck had 46 more homes on their website than the MLS. Well, we can see a clear trend here, okay, that the MLS always has the least, then a homesource.com, then the builder's website always has the most, and probably the most accurate number as well. So I went back to the MLS and newhomesource.com, and I did some comparisons by county, okay, and some of these numbers are seriously off. Like take Denton County, for example. New Home Source has almost twice as many homes for sale listed as the MLS does. Okay, so we're talking a difference of 658 homes here. If that doesn't knock your socks off, check out the numbers for Collin County. 1,009 more listings on New Home Source than the MLS. Dallas County came in with a difference of 930 homes for sale. And Tarrant County takes first place with 1,160 more homes for sale on New Home Source. And then finally, Ellis County with 46 more listings. Here's how those numbers add up. The MLS total is 3,744 and your New Home Source total is 7,547. So that's a difference of 3,803 new construction homes that are not on the MLS. Okay, that is a lot of homes. And remember, this is only comparing the MLS to newhomesource.com. So the actual number from all the builders' websites would be like a ton more. Want to know something else that will boggle your mind? All of this data is on quick move-in homes only. Like I didn't even include any lots for sale that would result in new build homes. Plus, on top of all that, most builders have more inventory homes planned that aren't even on their website yet. Okay, so what does this tell you as a buyer? Well, it tells you that anytime housing supply is cited from the MLS, it's not accurate data. I mean, I really wanted you to see this because you'll hear a lot of buzz about a housing supply shortage, but the reality is there are thousands of homes that never make it to the MLS. So what we need to be talking about is being oversupplied, not a supply shortage. So are you seeing the pattern here? Austin had become overbuilt, so it was very exposed when interest rates spiked. In Dallas, when interest rates spiked, it wasn't yet overbuilt. So we didn't have all those unabsorbed units. And yet that's exactly where we're headed now. Now, interesting thing about Austin, even with it being overbuilt, demand was reasonably matching supply when money was cheap. When interest rates spiked, that's when we saw a huge drop in prices. Like it took a trigger. An overbuilt housing market is an exposed one, okay? It's a vulnerable one, but it still took a trigger for Austin to crash the way it did. The question is there an oncoming trigger for Dallas? Like we're getting exposed, overbuilt pockets peppered throughout the whole Dallas area, and that's going to make Dallas vulnerable to any kind of market trigger. So what might those triggers be? Well, first let's talk about recession. Mark Holbert with Market Watch reflects on this, okay? He describes how there is a dramatic difference in perspectives about the health of the U.S. economy. He describes how Wall Street is celebrating the stock market's new all-time highs, but then he says the average American is much more pessimistic. He goes into detail about how he receives numerous emails from readers. He says how they all describe significant and sudden slowdowns in their particular industries and widespread fears in their communities of how much worse it could become in coming months. And then he drops this bombshell, okay? He says, the data confirms what they're saying. Then you have Gus Fotcher, Senior Vice President at PNC, who says the unemployment rate is likely to increase to around 4% as consumers pull back on spending, causing job growth to slow. The risk of recession, it obviously remains elevated. So we've developed into a situation where Dallas is just really very exposed to any adverse events in the market because it has so many pockets of these empty homes and, over leveraged builders. And I get it, okay, nobody likes the idea of a recession, but the fact is it can spell opportunity for an attentive buyer. So what you want to have, is your pulse on the market, and then just be on the lookout for any kind of market triggers. Now, I want to talk to you about another really important distinction between the Austin and Dallas housing markets. During the cheap money boom of 2020 to mid-2022, Austin home prices spiraled much higher than Dallas. In fact, Newsweek shares how by mid-2022, prices were more than 75% higher in the city compared to before the pandemic. There was like this explosion of home buying activity that got overheated, and there was a need for a correction. Part of the reason for this was that in Austin, there was a huge affordability distinction between natives to Austin and newcomers. Many of the surge of newcomers were from more expensive cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. Redfin chief economist Daryl Fairweather comments on the Austin situation, saying these people came with very big housing budgets relative to what locals were paying. He describes how Redfin did research that showed that people coming from outside of the Austin metro area were spending much more than people found within the Austin metro. Fairweather concludes that this resulted in a surge in the cost of homes, with people willing to pay above asking price, all cash down. Now, as a result, that brings us to our next reason. In Austin, the affordability index became unhinged from fundamentals. Now, this is a really important point that we need to acknowledge because Dallas is headed that way now. Affordability is a market influencer that we have to accept. So what do I mean by this? Well, basically, home prices went up so quickly that it was no longer in line with what Austin residents could afford. We need to face the facts that a rapid escalation of prices means unaffordability, and unaffordability is a problem that is going to affect the economy, right? Because something is going to happen, right? Some form of trigger, or event that will bring values more in line with affordability. I mean, the basic premise here is that just like a bubble has to pop at some point, a housing market has to get back to its fundamentals at some point as well. Austin, met its fate much sooner because the prices were already so much higher. So the question is, where does Dallas stand? Well, the more we see prices go up, the more Dallas is headed to the same conclusion. At some point, the market reaches a saturation point and we see a correction back to fundamentals. Dallas Culture Map comments on this. They say a new income analysis by Redfin has revealed just how much more a potential homeowner needs to make this year to afford a starter home in Dallas. They report that in Dallas, it's a whopping $8,482 more than the national average. And the fact is that things have changed pretty drastically here in Dallas. First, when prices went up, after the pandemic, and then again, secondly, when rates went up so quickly. So what a homeowner needed to earn a year ago or 2 years ago, that's just not going to cut it anymore. Garcia with the Dallas Federal Reserve shares a graph explaining that the price to income ratio is a conventional measure of consumer housing affordability, with higher readings indicating greater challenges for buyers. Now take a look at this graph. It really speaks for itself, and it's clear to see that the level of affordability has rapidly declined since 2020. Tim Mullaney with CNBC News touches on the topic as well. Give us another set of scary numbers to digest. He says so many large regional markets remain out of line with local incomes. Much of Texas had relatively affordable housing until 2020, but median homes are now 20% to 30% too expensive for median local incomes. In fact, remember that prediction I mentioned earlier where Realtor.com predicts Austin's price growth will drop another 12.2%? Well, guess what? It also predicts that Dallas-Fort Worth will see a drop of 8.4%. Things have simply got to come around at some point. Now, here's an interesting little plot twist. Right now, Austin is headed closer to being affordable while Dallas is continuing to get worse. Culture Map states that in Austin, potential homeowners saw a 3.3% decrease in income needed to afford a home, but it's still the highest income required out of all Texas cities in the report, $92,057. Now, it goes on to mention Dallas, okay? It says home buyers need to earn $72,885 annually to afford a Dallas home in 2023, which is 10.6% more income than was required in 2022. Now, you might think comparing $92,000 to $72,000 that Dallas is still in pretty good shape, but here's the problem, okay? The cost of living between the two cities is actually pretty close to being the same. Yeah, so housing is more expensive in Austin, but the overall cost of living in the two cities comes in at right around equal, because in Dallas, there are other things that are more expensive. And that ought to really concern us when we think about affordability and how it affects home prices. Okay, so why did Austin crash and Dallas hasn't? Well, Austin was already overbuilt when the spike in interest rates hit. I mean, that market trigger hit it hard, okay? Plus, Austin home prices spiraled much higher during the era of cheap money. So you had super high home prices, an overbuilt market, and then a market trigger. Now, I will say one distinction I noticed between Austin and Dallas is when we think about an oversaturated market, Dallas has poured a lot of focus into low-end new construction. Okay, we're talking hundreds, and yeah, I would even say thousands of homes in the low to mid 300s. So, you might think, with that much low-end new construction, that should keep Dallas from a big price correction. But your problem is these homes, they're not in your A-rated school districts, and they're further out in the excerpts. So even though they're closer to being affordable, there's just all this inventory just sitting there vacant. I mean, we have these builders with millions of dollars invested into homes that they can't sell. Now, I don't have to tell you, that spells opportunity. In fact, I did an entire video about it that you can watch right here. In the meantime, Wendy out.